Welcome back. I hope you had fun really envisioning and sinking your teeth into that moonshot. Remember we talked about leaders being radically adaptable? They need to be aligned, agile, and radically adaptable. In today's ever-changing world, planning and prioritization is constant and it's iterative. In the olden days, we used to do annual plans. Not anymore. It's called agile leadership. And I've adopted an even more aggressive approach to it, and I call that radical adaptability. Remember what Warren Bennis said? The heat has turned up on us big time. And so few leaders were even using the basic agile practices that have been around for a few years. And now we need it even more. But you have to start somewhere. Let's lay some simple ground rules to achieving the goals of your moonshot in an agile fashion. And once you get comfortable with constant change and adjustments, that you can handle absolutely whatever heat is thrown at you, whatever pivots come your way. You and your team will constantly grow and pivot and triangulate your way to success and what we call radical adaptability. Let me give you some personal examples of the adjustments and pivots that I personally had to make. At Frazee Greenlight, I started actually as a growth hacking firm for sales and marketing. Remember, I was a chief marketing officer and I ran sales. We focused on helping sales and marketing organizations co-elevate and grow the organization. But then what happened was we realized that so much damage and challenge was back at the team level, the executive team level at the very top of the organization. So we had to pivot and move in order to really help a growth company become a growth company. We had to move and become focused on teams and co-elevation in addition to field sales and marketing. Then we, of course, pivoted and focused on different types of delivery. No matter what happens, we're always true to our North Star, true to our passion, that purpose that I talked to you about. But along the way, there are changes happening. By the way, that's not a small change. Going from face-to-face delivery at the client level to online courses and worrying about entirely different ways of delivering our product and solution, that's a big deal. And by the way, my constituencies and my team came with me. People like Mind Valley, people like Vision. These individuals joined my team. Remember, they don't have to work for you. They just have to work in conjunction with you in that co-elevating partnership. And as well, I've had my own software firm and I built and sold. And this organization started with a very broad mission to help managers be better coaches. But by the end of it, it had a very focused, clear, narrow mission of helping new employees get up to speed and onboarded fast. All of this happens when you're open to the kind of pivots and changes that need to occur in business today. Okay, in a prior module, we talked about your moonshot. Now it's time to make the impossible possible. A leader needs to offer a feasible way to get to the extraordinary. We're going to look at how you can do this through a systematic process. In consulting language, I call this collaborative problem solving, a CPS. For agility and radical adaptability, you need to break down a big problem into what needs to be achieved in modules, right? So we have a big mission. I'm going to get 100 million folks thinking and changing the way they lead. But what are my 10 most important things that I have to do to get there? I call these things the 10 hills. And by the way, when I say 10 hills, you could have something that has an elegant set of 3 to 5 critical things that you have to achieve in order to achieve your big mission. But very often, once you start digging into it, they're quite complex. 10 seems to be a good number. So what are the 10 hills that you have to take to be successful? Your 10 things to achieve that need to make up your moonshot or any vision that you're working on to achieve that. Now, we're breaking it down now. To get to this, I want you to introduce the core of understanding what those 10 are to your team. I want your team to help you identify this. In the old days of leadership, this might have been your job. But in today's world, I want you to co-create with the people you've invited in. Remember, we've worked our butts off to go get a diverse population, to go get people that know different things, more things than you. You don't want to set your goals and dreams and break that down into distinct steps by yourself. This is your opportunity to invite others in. The power of co-creation. Let's start with the benefits of co-creation of goals, so you really believe and land this, versus, of course, just hunkering down and doing it yourself. Remember, I said that inclusion or teaming out makes your goals bigger and bolder. It opens up innovation. Also, people are more committed when they're involved. Your team is going to go take that hill no matter what when they're involved in creating it. They have personal ownership of what's co-created versus what's handed to them. Do you get that? You want to co-create with them so that they'll own the charge. Therefore, collaboration also creates alignment because you've all come together to align on what those next steps are. It also allows for a quick pivot, right? Because if you're co-creating, when adjustments need to be made, once the team is already aligned, typically it's very tough to get them to change. But now with them co-creating, they'll be able to pivot with you. The lag will be much less. So how do you start? Well, let's break, again, those big visions and goals into small pieces. Back to our 10 hills we need to take. Now, you can leverage this process of CPS, collaborative problem solving, and it's going to be an important one, to identify the big hills. In fact, you can use this principle of CPS to attack any question at all. This question right now is a simple one, which is, what are the 10 most important things that we need to do in whatever period of time, in the next month, in the next year, to achieve our goal? What are those 10? So let's go step by step through a CPS process. Like always, I want you to be respectful of your team. I want you to schedule. Find 60 to 90 minutes to do this collaborative problem-solving exercise. Don't try to squeeze it in. Longer, if more. If this requires more complexity, feel free. Then what I want you to make sure is that as long as you're spending the time to make sure that you can deliberate, chew on these problems together, debate together, that's so important for you to make sure that you don't just, rush it. All right. So just make sure you give enough time. Eventually, I find I can do CPSs in 30 minutes when the questions are narrower, people are more familiar with this collaborative engagement process. Sometimes I just send them out in small groups for 5 minutes to come back just as a booster shot for collaboration and collaborative engagement. Step 2, as always, set the tone, right? The tone for the meeting is going to be excited. It's going to be co-creative. You're inviting people in to join you in your purpose, to join you in designing their and your future as a collective. Once again, it's so important to have this co-elevating mindset from the very beginning and setting that tone. Let everyone know how much value you see in the team coming together and in them. Step 3, craft the question. I'm kind of giving you the question for this particular exercise of what are the 10 hills, but they can be anything. And really be thoughtful. The questions I find in leadership, questions are some of the most important thing that a leader curates. Instead of just directing people, asking good questions gives people the opportunity to self-reveal, right? It guides a group in a way that doesn't feel like it's authoritative, control, or directive, but a good question opens up possibility. Now, in this case, again, it's going to be like we did before, what a moonshot could we achieve? You might want to take the time you have in your collaborative problem solving to test the moonshot that you had conceived of earlier. Remember, I said it will be co-created. Or if that already has been established, the moonshot, then we're going to talk about what 5 to 10 critical goals we have to achieve to break down our success and really make our moonshot a reality in a distinct period of time. Let's say within the next 6 months. Other questions can be as broad as your goals are. You can use CPS, collaborative problem solving, to ask questions like, how do we reduce costs when our expenses need to be really scrutinized? We can think about ideas that you want to spark innovation around. Think about ideas where you believe humbly you don't have all of the answers. Those are the perfect questions for collaborative problem solving. And you're going to be using this tool for a lifetime. So strap in all the questions. So step 4, who's the owner of this question? In some instances with a CPS, the owner may be a particular person running a particular project. And the service to giving all of this direction, all of this innovation isn't to you, but it's to one of your team members. And that's great. And early on, it's usually and often you as a leader. It's perfectly fine. But I do want you to encourage over time, the whole team should be excited to take advantage of the collaborative insight of the team as a whole. The whole team should be prepared to take advantage of the collaborative insight of the team as a whole. I don't want you leading a team that believes that they're all off doing their own thing and then just coming for report outs. No, I want you to encourage others to come up with their own CPSs for the team to bring inclusion and innovation into their thinking. Now, step 5, invite the right people. Remember teaming out. This is your opportunity to engage a bold team, a broad team. This is your opportunity to tap into all of those constituencies, all of those groups that early on and those stakeholders that you planned for. Be liberal. Ask yourself, who knows something about this issue? Who knows something about this issue? Who might be impacted? Involve them early. Remember, if they're impacted, they're going to own the solution with you. And it's not always who you think. It could be individuals you haven't even imagined. You might even ask your team who should be involved. One example I was dealing with one client was they happened to be having a meeting right before they were scheduling their collaborative problem solving. Well, they said they'll just let the people from the prior meeting stick around and see what they might be able to contribute. And the chief legal counsel was there and decided to stick around, the head of legal. Well, they had no belief that that person was going to be valuable for the discussion at hand, which was a question about sales. But the reality was it was the head of legal who came up with an idea, which was, what if we changed this contract? Could we actually increase renewals? Could we accelerate sales by tweaking the contract? That had them making their quarter. You never know who can actually contribute. Step 6, let's get people pre-reading. I want them to think in advance of what the questions are. I want them to be able to talk to their own teams. I want them to be able to talk to others. I want them to team out as they come prepared for this discussion with the most innovative insights that they have. Suggest that they explore it with others in advance. That is so important because now you're teaming out, teams out, and your inclusion is going to be even broader. Step 7. So when you're having the meeting, I want to make sure that you have a good, solid agenda. Start with a review of the forthcoming process. Start with framing the question. Now, you do this in the group as a whole. Whoever's present, you frame the question, get it clear, ask questions if anybody asks questions about the questions. And at that point, I want to make sure that you've really landed that we all know the question we're asking here. Now, the next bit is really, really important. I want you to break into small groups for a certain period of time. Why break into small groups? I'll tell you why. It's so important that in small groups, you understand that there's courage. Remember, I talked a little bit about psychological safety. When people really feel safe to be bold, safe to take risks, there is courage in small groups. Just think about yourself. Are you as courageous in a large group of people, speaking candidly, courageously, or are you more courageous in a small group of individuals? You feel more comfortable. So always break into small groups. This is a superpower of collaboration. In these small groups, they're going to all talk in a more risk-taking, bold fashion, and they will do a set of analysis in that small group to pick the best answers. So once they've done that, right, and all of their voices are heard and all the candor and all the good juice is extracted, right, it's going to be retained when it comes back into the room. Because a small tribe has been created here, a small tribe of 3 or 4. I love groups of 3 or 4. I find them ideal for collaborative problem solving. And when they come back into the main room, they're not going to want to water down their thinking because they feel that they had bonded there and they owe it to each other to bring their ideas back into the room. You can give that small group as much time as you want. As I said, sometimes it's 5 minutes, but usually it's 20 or 30 minutes to really discuss a question like this, which would be, what are the 10 most impactful hills we have to to go and take to achieve our moonshot. So give the team some time warnings. Now, what I love about this is a beautiful process to use in remote teams. If you're running a remote team, it's so easy to use breakout rooms. It's so easy to use the technology we have to do this process. The worst thing about teams in a world of remote work, where people are working remotely, people tend to have these big meetings in open rooms in Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever technology you're using, Blue Jeans. But the reality is the real power happens in the breakout. Right? So this allows you, I think, to even run a team in a remote world that was even better than it was in the physical world, where you sat in one big room. So when you come back, I want you to trim down your best answers that you talked about in the small group. And when you come back, be prepared to give a few minutes of a report out from each team. Whoever's the team owner, like yourself in this case, you're going to then listen to everybody and you're going to opine. You're going to say, yes, I really like that idea. No, this won't work for us right now. Maybe this is worth more discovery. The importance of that yes, no, maybe is people want some feedback. Now, here's the thing. When people are giving feedback to peers, peer-to-peer feedback, don't expect that this is feedback that's directive. Nobody is telling you what to do. People are giving you advice. And then it's up to whoever is receiving that advice to do whatever they want to with it. The benefit of being in a network giving feedback is that this is about inclusion and ideas. It's not direction. Nobody is telling you like it used to be in a more hierarchical format. So after this is all done, I want you to immediately transfer all this stuff into some project management or communication platforms and tools. Tools are so important to keep all this going. And then I want you to set a set of weekly and monthly sprints for each of the things you've decided to focus on. I want you to assign a leader to the 10, each of the 10, and go on these sprints. We're going to be talking a lot more about sprints in subsequent sessions. So for the reach of each weekly or monthly sprint, you need to design and measure what does it mean to succeed in that period? What, over those 10 hills, those 5 hills, what are we going to do for the next month each? And I want you to be smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. What are we going to do in the next month? Each of the hills you're taking has a projected measurable results of what it means to be successful. Then similarly, each of the sprints you're running has a projected measurable results in a short period of time. At the end of this period, at the end of each sprint owner is going to be prepared with a few questions. What did I accomplish? What am I struggling with? And how do I need help? What am I committed to for the next sprint? So the whole idea is you're going to break your moonshot down into 10 big hills. You're going to sprint along weekly, monthly, winning processes, every single leader of every single hill prepared to come and present. We're going to be talking a lot more about that. As long as you feel comfortable that your ultimate goal or moonshot is still in target with the right progress, then we want to celebrate individuals for their movement in each of those sprints. Okay, so what's your mission? We walked through a step-by-step process for how to do a collaborative problem-solving discussion. We're going to get into a lot more detail about sprints and agility, but I just want you to recognize that you have a system today that you need to guide true collaboration. These breakout sessions are crucial. Get your team together and conduct a CPS. I think it's a great CPS to focus on what are the 10 hills you need to achieve your moonshot. One by one, you're going to take these hills. You're going to take these hills with your team. Next, we're going to talk about how to drive toward outcomes and neutralize any risks along the way in these sprints. Focus on your first CPS.